Hello, welcome all. Today's topic is disability and fiction, and as you can make out, it comes under literature and disability module. Okay, generally, the prism of identity, say, for example, race, it brings into sharp relief how material realities of creating fiction, consuming fiction, is closely interlinked to the problem of marginalization, subalternity, and so on. Disability also brings that kind of focus, okay? But it can add unique dimensions, and one of them is the problem of identity. Okay, so likewise, I will run you through some pointers that disability as a lens can bring some difference to our understanding of fiction. Not only understanding, but production, creation, and dissemination and archiving of fiction. And by fiction, I mean all forms of fiction, including story, fable, novel, novella, okay, and much more that you can imagine. So let's start with embodiment. What is embodiment? Well, embodiment is the way we gather ourselves in body, mind, and some would say soul. Okay, because well, no matter what we do, read a novel, do a sport, or cook for someone, make love, we do with our bodies. Okay, and that body is not an isolated entity. It is entangled very, very deeply with our environment. Okay, Tobin Siebers, Siebers, okay, calls it such entanglement as complex embodiment. Take the following examples. Children literature. Children look at the world very differently, okay? For example, this chair for a child would be a mini house. She would sit underneath and imagine a whole universe where she is the master and she can overcome the adult world in some significant way. Her fantasies rule that world underneath this chair. Okay, so likewise, all novels, all forms of fiction, works of imagination, are a valuable commentary on our embodied world. So disability in some sense brings into sharp relief the problem of embodiment. I will count few things when it comes to embodiment. Happy self, sick body, body paralyzed, aging body. I'm a middle-aged man now. One day I'll be old, and so are my audience here. They will be aging slowly and steadily. Body that has met with accident, body that is confused, Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, stigmatized body, women who feel cornered by patriarchy, prisoners of war, okay? Someone who has been facing caste discrimination, someone who has been tortured. Look, all these things are throw up different corporeal or bodily expressions. Okay, they change the world around, and if one privileges that, then in looking at fiction, then take it from me, it is looking at fiction with the prism of disability. If not disability, it is looking at the world fiction through capacities, bodily differences, and so on. We are not yet done with the problem of embodiment, which is the first thing that fiction, disability does to fiction. One cannot indulge in creativity in a space out there, you know. You have to create with your body, create with your mind, create with material realities surrounding you. Gramsci's prison notebooks, Anne Frank's diary, many disabled writers, Petra Kappers, for example, talking about poetics, and so on. So one creates with or reads consumes the work of creativity with some bodily capacity limitation. Okay, and changing technologies also determines our habit of reading and creating fiction. Now Audible is there and so on. That has changed the way we listen to books. In 18th and 19th century, actually a novel, for example, is a recent invention. It is only 200 years old, from 18th century onwards. Novel requires an individual to shut himself or herself from surroundings and just deeply engrossed in that novel. In other words, as individualism emerged, novel as a form also emerged. Now emerges tweet, blogging, maybe other forms that are created through your mobile phones, you know. Right. So let's consider other connections between what disability can bring us to in consideration of fiction. I will go through pointers of list that are conventional in discussing any novel. For example, point of view. This is our second point in considering disability in fiction. Point of view, what is point of view? Your traditional novel class would have told you that point of view is very important for fiction. First person point of view, second person point of view, third person point of view, and so on. And author's point of view, omniscient author, you know, author being a passive narrator, characters telling about himself, and so on. Let me read out a sentence from a famous work of fiction. Okay? As I read it, you will immediately know what it is. One morning, as Gregor Samsa was waking up from anxious dreams, he discovered that in his bed, he had been changed into a monstrous verminous bug. Ah, you know that it's from the Metamorphosis, yeah, by Franz Kafka. Look at this. One man wakes up early morning and discovers that he is no more the same, a giant insect. Gosh, maybe novel, a story can exaggerate things like that, but that's how many of us can feel when something like a big accident comes upon us, when life situation suddenly changes. For example, many of us, some of us can wake up with a paralyzed hand or leg. One of us can suddenly be alerted to a crude and a harsh reality where everyone is around us, dear ones are not around, and one is, tsunami did that to many thousands out there. Suddenly, the reality changed from being a carefree person to a most responsible, most burdensome shoulder, a person with a most burdensome shoulder. You see? So that can happen, and one discovers that one's body is no more the same, say paralyzed leg or paralyzed hand, then one needs to sort of get used to a new reality, because people are dependent on you or you are dependent on them. You have a daily routine, it is disrupted, very rudely so, and then one doesn't know how to handle it. So, because through the character of Gregor, Kafka is able to, well, with the omniscient narrative, that author being the most powerful controller of the narrative, through the and deploying character called Gregor Samsa, he brings in a new reality. Well, so what does point of view, what does disability does to point of view? Let me give some political examples. Suppose somebody is unable to speak due to maybe deafness, or due to their agency being robbed, or they are dependent, they are bedridden. You need somebody to speak on behalf of them, a third person narrator, a caregiver. So, point of view, third person point of view is just not a narrative technique. When looking at the prism of disability, it can say third person narrator may be a caregiver, a dear one who is vested with the authority and ethical responsibility of representing somebody most responsible way. You see? First person, well, if you want to give fuller agency and voice to a person, then you create first person point of view. Well, you have many times heard in this course, nothing about us without us, then nothing about us without us cannot emerge. That kind of politics cannot emerge if there is no first person point of view. Can you see the point here? So, disability can, the lens of disability from the perspective, point of view where people discuss fiction, it can give such nuances into sharp relief. Yeah? What else is, let's take the third, first embodiment, second point of view, third character. Character is a very, very nice and important, or even most complicated stuff. Oh, she is a bad character, somebody says. Oh, yeah, she's a lovely character, yeah, somebody says. Now, look at this cheeky ways of talking about people. Similarly, fiction, in discussing about fiction, people talk about flat character, round character, and somehow the personhood of the character emerge. And how this is judged? The judging happens perhaps through body language. Body language is a very important source of character analysis in reality as much as in fiction. How much a character asserts oneself, a passive one, slowly developing, non-verbose, yeah, maybe sportspersons, body, meaning athletic body, authoritative voice, meek character. At the end of the novel, readers sit in judgment like this. Whether you are a student of literature or not, people end up doing that. A person fighting cancer, for example, fighting itself connotes that cancer is a battlefield. So, if such fighting happens, then you attribute heroism to that character who may end up dying at the end of the novel. You see, then all the metaphors connected to fighting, battling ends up in the pages of that novel. It can happen. Size and colors can matter. Caste can matter. Characters can be monotonous, flat, or they can be dynamic, like villain one moment, a caregiver another moment, very dynamically changing. And characters analysis comes with symbolism. What is symbolism? Well, symbols such as metaphors. He's a lion, or she's a lion. If that is the impression that the reader has in a story, then you end up the novel might have given a character sketch that given full attributions of bravery to the character in question. Now, coming to disability, why disability should matter to character, or how disability complicates the idea of character in the novel. You know what? There cannot be any fiction without character. Meaning, even a table can be a character. In Life of Pi, Pi is a character as much as the tiger and the boat. In some novels, settings can be a character. The great Wuthering Heights, settings become the character. It's a wintry Gothic place. Now, again, coming back to disability, it can reveal that symbolism of the body, say baldness of the head, blindness, can be symbolic. People can treat lack of spine as, a spinal problem as a dent in their character, negative attributions. Disability can bring human diversity of the body and the ways in which people look at it when making assumptions about character or character analysis. Okay? A disability can also bring into sharp relief different settings and their nature. For example, some settings demonstrate that those settings are habitable and some are not. Okay? Now, let me move to the plot. The fourth item in discussing the interface between disability and fiction. Plot. What is a plot? Plot is a sequence. I got up in the morning, had breakfast, and then lunch. Okay, that's a plot. Aristotle, in the Western tradition, says plot is fundamental to storytelling. A tragedy should have a beginning, middle, and end. That is, some beginning of a story. Maybe two people met. Middle, well, they developed some complications. And end, well, they ended up separating or resolving that problem. That's a plot. Now, what is disability doing here? In Aristotelian tradition, plot is so fundamental that entire Western literature from then on started developing some shape, some character about what it can or cannot do to the plot business. Okay? But what disability can say about plot stuff? First of all, disability can tell once for all, or proclaim once for all, that plot is no straightforward business. Beginning, middle, and end cannot flow that way. Take these examples. Your grandma, she did not have that much educational opportunities that you had as a matter of sequence. When you're youth, you just go to college and study, and after that you go to office, earn a lot of money, then buy a house, then get married, then have children, then grow up. That's a plot here, expected plot, middle class plot. Well, she did not get educational opportunities, but at the age of 60 or 70, she is picking up a book along with her children or grandchildren to start reading. Okay, take the other instances. Take other examples. Somebody who has acute pain in the stomach or elsewhere, anywhere, maybe shoulder, maybe a broken shoulder. For everybody else, night passes peacefully. 10:30 you hit the bed, 11 o'clock you drift away, and then bird chirp, you get up, or your mobile phone mimics a bird chirp and you get up. Night passes away. For that person who is under deep pain, one night feels like a month or a year. My God, it feels so slow. Plot do not move in time, clock time. It can go forward. If you are stuck with your memory, you can be in the past, even when you are listening to me. Your memories may be wandering. So, disability gives us a reason to ponder about such things. Okay? For example, a person in pain, a person with memory loss, they create and consume fiction differently. And people, if there is one reality, clock time is not, we don't live by clock time, although clock is necessary to mediate our life. Okay? Well, what else fiction can bring into sharp relief? It can help us understand forms of storytelling itself. Let me give a vivid example. Stream of consciousness technique, for example. Stream of consciousness technique, what is it? Our mind does not think in a linear fashion. It goes zigzag. It can be chaotic. Wanderings of the mind is not linear. Conditions such as schizophrenia, Alzheimer's, and the rest prove that human mind is much non-linear, chaotic, and is a treasure archive of narratives. Okay? Stream of consciousness technique is a vivid example of showing this reality. Okay? So, forms of storytelling, well, I told a few minutes ago 18th century novel is an 18th century reality because it got invented when individualism was developing. Now electronic amps and all that, it is taking individualism to a new level. Okay? Now, according to human capacities, incapacities, disabilities and abilities, people create new forms of storytelling. Stream of consciousness, I said, is one among them. Concluding remarks. I use traditional modalities, traditional techniques of explaining fiction, such as character analysis, point of view, form, okay, to bring you to the attention what disability as a prism, as a lens can do to understanding of fiction. In the next part, I demonstrate this with a discussion of story, a story from Rabindranath Tagore. Thank you.